Welcome to Armchair Expert. I'm Dax Shepard, and I'm mojoined by Emmy-nominated Monica Padman. We've got an old pal of mine today.
Oh, you guys go way back to when you were just tiny buddies.
Will Arnett, a.k.a. Bill Arnett, a.k.a. Barney, is here in the attic. What a fucking delight this has been. He was nominated for 6 Primetime Emmys. You surely fell in love with him on Arrested Development. He's got a really hysterical show on Netflix called BoJack Horseman. Of course, he's Batman in the Lego movie and in the Batman movies. Flaked, most importantly, Let's Go to Prison, that most people think is called Let's Go to Jail. And the list goes on. Now, he has a new show that looks absolutely awesome called Lego Masters. It premieres Wednesday, February 5th on Fox. Check it out if you want to see crazy geniuses assemble crazy things with Legos.
Do.
I'm in.
Oh my gosh. Your kids are going to love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, just a reminder, Valentine's Day is right around the corner. Knock, knock, knock,
Day
knock, knock.
of love.
It's a day of love, and it's the day that Monica and Jess Loves Boys debuts.
That's right.
Will be in your inbox shortly, so please look for that.
Check it out.
Check it out. Monica and Jess love boys. I threw an S on there.
I've been doing that too, so forgive me in these episodes because I have been saying it wrong. It's just a grammar issue.
Well, it's you coming out of Jess, which is an S, and then you're going to end with boys, and then you just pop it in the middle there.
You know, that's one reason to listen is it makes you think.
Yeah, it could be a drinking game. Every time you add an S, pound, pound, pound. All right, everybody, please enjoy Barney Arnett.
He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert.
I've heard my name has come up a couple of times.
It has.
And people ask me all the time, what happened? Dax has never asked you to be on this thing. I said, no, he hasn't.
He refuses to ask.
I have a hard time asking, like, friends. Like,
I thought that we were like falling out friends. That's what I really thought. Well, let's talk about it. Let's
Yeah,
say it.
yeah.
Let's say it. This is good shit.
Yeah, this is juicy,
This
juicy
is
stuff.
This is Hollywood Babylon right here. You know what I like about Rob? Can I just say this?
Yeah.
Rob feels like he's like the guy. He's not a pilot, but he's the guy off to the side behind the pilots. He's the
Co-pilot.
Co-pilot. No, but what do you call him? He's the maps guy.
Really quick, I could listen to you think. That voice is so great. You go, he's the
Yeah, it is.
and I'm like,
it is
take your
nice.
time. Take your time and think about the right answer, because I could listen to you think with that voice.
Do you remember that guy in that parking lot in Illinois? I know you do. And there was a guy, he was a waiter at Bennigan's.
Chili's or TGIF?
TGIF,
yeah.
no, but what was the other place?
Applebee's?
Bennigan's.
Applebe's.
No, it wasn't Applebee's. It was
was
Bennigan's.
Bennigan's is a place.
It was Bennigan's where we had that salad, like deep fried salad. It was the only healthy food.
Well, you and I thought we were killing it on our diet. Remember, we would eat these deep fried chicken salads, and we were like,
yum.
It was terrible. But this guy came and he had a Camaro, and he was telling us about his brother-in-law, and we were like, we will listen to this guy talk about his brother-in-law for as long as he had like a ripped T-shirt.
Well, he was. You've kind of elevated his station at that restaurant. He was really
That's true.
He was a busboy.
He was a busboy.
Yeah, and a bit of a bar back too, like when necessary.
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't think he recognized either of us
Not
or
at all.
Keckner. I just think he was drawn to our night. We went there every single night.
Every night.
Yeah, and we're tall, I guess. Maybe that's part of it. And then I had a cool car.
You had a cool car, and we were the only people in there who weren't overtly depressed.
Yes.
I think that was a big part of it.
It
too.
was, and he was drawn to us, and he would come over, and he, in all honesty, the first few times he would tell a story, we were not super interested. But once he started in with the brother-in-law stories,
You were in.
and we decided that any story that starts with my brother-in-law, you just know it's going to be a doozy.
We're like, everybody else, shut up. This guy's talking. You had that souped-up Cadillac.
The CTSV, the first iteration of it,
Yeah, that's
was
right.
6-speed.
Dax drove this caddy from L.A. to Illinois to Chicago.
Yeah.
Because we were making this movie in this prison, which I was just talking about the other day with somebody. And I was just talking about how depressing it is to shoot in a prison.
I say that all the time too. I go like, I by no means think I know the prison experience, but just simply filming in there 10 hours a day, even knowing you could leave, You were like, oh man, because you couldn't stretch your arms out, Monica, all the way.
Ugh.
Like for Will and I, our arms were about this far stretched, and we're touching both walls.
They
that's
built
crazy.
it, and they build those places obviously to be intimidating, especially then. They were sort of draconian in the way that they were laid out, and it was on purpose to make you feel small and shitty and like you were having your freedom taken away. Yeah.
Joliet State Prison is what it was. And I would say the darkest moment for sure was we were filming in the communal showers there at the prison.
Yeah.
And oh man, we were like, oh my God, do you know how much horror this room has seen?
Yeah, that's true.
You could feel it. Yeah, that was the worst. I was talking about this yesterday.
Listen, nobody saw this movie.
No.
Let's go to prison.
Yeah.
And although the only people that I've found that seem to really enjoy that movie is it's always someone at valet. They're like, let's go to prison.
Yeah.
And it's so exciting. For whatever reason, it really calls to valets.
I get a lot of guys in
Oh,
trucks.
truck drivers,
I get like I'd be walking the street in New York, and
I thought you were about to say homeless guy.
Well,
not as much. I don't know if it's huge in that community, but I do know that I got a bunch of guys would yell out, "Hey, prison!"
Also, can I add, and I think we share this, is that 99% of the time they say, "Oh, let's go to jail."
Yes.
It's always let's go to jail.
Let's go to jail.
I don't know why prison is.
Because nobody wants to go to prison. Jail, you feel like you're getting. It's just
It's like a
stop.
90-minute stop in jail. You
Yeah.
have some laughs and
Yeah.
then you carry on.
But prison, it does invoke a much darker
sure does.
vibe.
Well, let's go to prison is a perfect place to start for you and I because we met for that movie. That's where we became friends.
We met as the movie was coming together.
Mm-hmm.
You were already doing it, and then I came on after you.
Mm-hmm. I'll never forget when you came in and when we went outside after you read and we had a cigarette together.
At Tom Warner's office.
Yep.
Which is weird. All these years later, I'm now still friends with Tom Warner.
Oh, he's the sweetest man alive.
And I ended up doing that Brother Solomon with him, which
Uh-huh.
he produced. And then I just did a show with him for the BBC that's coming out
Oh, really?
next year about soccer, about a fictitious Premier League soccer team.
Who are you in that?
I'm the American chairman of the team.
Of course. You got
course.
fucking
This
chairman
guy's a-
written all
Yeah.
This
over.
guy's a
Typecast.
fool.
Titan of industry.
So that's where we met.
was it before or after Arrested Development?
It was
During.
concurrent with.
During.
He was in the third season.
So you must have been excited.
I had not seen that show yet. And in fact, I went and watched it because I became friends with Will. And I was like, oh my God, I was sleeping on the funniest show
Yeah.
on TV. But what's interesting is when we met, and this is all my baggage.
Sure. Let's unpack it.
Let's do it. Get
Buckle
comfy,
up.
Monica.
Yeah.
You know, I was from a modest background.
Sure.
And I was like, this dude, I can tell this dude's got money. And I was so triggered by you. When I first met you, I'm like, this guy is like, he's like blue blood. Again, a tight industry. And I felt a little less than. It's all my shit.
Wow.
And I went to the movie going, I don't know if I like this guy. And then we got stuck in these apartments that you could call corporate housing, but it's not. It wasn't even that. It wasn't even.
I don't know what corporation would put their employees in that. You know, I mean,
Well, I'll tell you which kind. Like a cruise liner that's trying to house the below deck employees
Yes.
until the thing leaves port.
Yes.
That's kind of what corporation would have.
that's exactly right.
So right when we got there, I like gave you a call and you were like, there's a Starbucks on the corner. Let's go over there and get a breve. Do you drink breves? I'm like, what's a breves? It's half and half. And you were fucking sucking down these breves about it was 9 ounces of half and half.
9, it was 30 ounces of half and half. It was, they called it the arm tingler. You could feel your arteries clogging up.
And it
wow.
started right then. Your role in my life, in my narrative, is you introduced me to all this stuff. So one of them being this really kind of what I thought was quite a fancy drink over at Starbucks. I mean, you're going through $6, $7 worth of half and half just to get the caffeine. And we're banging back Camel Lights and sucking down these breves. So I went in there just thinking like, oh, this guy's too rich for me. He's
Wow.
gonna spit on me from his limousine at one point.
Limousine.
Was it the breve that made you feel like he was rich? I don't understand why you
No,
thought
no,
that.
no, no. It was back at the audition months before.
But why? Just his voice?
You know me, we just uncovered this recently that like I don't know anything about Celine Dion, but she reads to me. It's not her.
Yeah.
She reads to me as like rich
A little
and
hoity-toity.
fancy.
She's not. I mean, she is now, I think. But I don't
She's
think
gotta
that
be
would-
loaded, but-
she's beyond. Can you imagine?
No.
But I think that there is something, and I think that look, we haven't hung out a lot in the last couple of years, but we did after that, spent a lot of time
Oh,
for years. I mean,
yes.
we were thick as thieves.
So much
Yeah.
fun.
For years. So much fun. So many deep laughs. But I will say this. I think that back then, you, in a lot of ways, were coming alive to the world around you. And not that you had lived in a cocoon. I mean, you were very...
Well, I've been famous for 36 minutes.
You've been
at
famous,
the time we,
yeah.
we met.
I remember your big joke was, listen, don't tell me. I've been in show business for the better part of 9.5 months. Which is always hilarious.
I had a lot of like, oh, do I fit in here? I got to catch up.
You did a lot of thin slicing.
Thin slicing, Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah.
nice
So
reference.
there was a lot of
I like
things.
that.
I mean, I like to think that he took it from me, but I know he didn't. But it's just what I like to think. That's how I am.
Sure, sure.
But you know, it's funny. You taught me one that I think about all the time. I remember years ago, I was buying a new apartment, and I was like, "Oh man, this is a lot of money," and blah blah. And you said to me, I think Bruce Willis
story?
has said it to you, and you told me this to kind of steel me to this notion of doing it. You said you've always got to bet on yourself, and I remember you saying that, and I've been doing it ever since.
That is so wild because, you know, when I think about the different things that were triggering to me about you, which was all just jealousy,
Sure.
about a couple of aspects that you have in general, which are great characteristics. You have an optimism that I always been jealous of. It's a great quality. Like you'd go on vacation.
Yeah.
And I go, how much did you spend on this vacation? Remember, be obsessed with whatever you were spending. I'm counting your money all day long. What a terrible quality. And you go, fuck, I don't know, man. And I was like, God, how's he so comfortable? There was just an optimism, which proved to be true. Like, I'll work. Everything will be fine. I had such a death grip on like any penny I made.
Oh yeah, you were always counting other people's money, and you were always worried about rank and where everybody fit in.
That's right.
And so you was always like people's level of fame. This guy is here. I'm here.
Well, you're older than me. I think you were able to be very gracious with me.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
I am. I'm 5 years older.
That's another. So back onto the optimism. When we were doing When in Rome, that was 12 years ago. So you were, I guess you were 37 or
Yeah.
38.
Yeah.
And you were like, can you fucking believe 38? Isn't this great? Look at this. And I was like, I'm panicking about getting older. And you're thrilled. Like you were so excited.
That's
you got-
great.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you had a birthday because we did that movie in the spring.
That's right. We did the spring. That's exactly right. I turned 38.
And you kept going, I'm knocking on the back door 40. Can
Yeah.
you believe that? And you were pumped.
Thank you for saying that. I mean, I don't know if I'm optimistic. I do believe that everything works out, and I believe it now, even now, more than ever, if that's possible.
Yeah.
There were a few years where I did not. And what it taught me was you just get what you put out there. If I'm thinking about the lack of something, I get more lack of.
I know. Well, by the way, this whole year for me, I just keep spiraling around this notion of the story you're telling yourself. I'm just obsessed with your story.
It's all I talk about.
Oh, really? So you naturally, your brain wants to confirm your theories. It wants to prove you're right. So
Yeah.
whatever fucking thing you think, your brain's going to subconsciously prove that you're correct.
And you are collecting the evidence and you're making a case for your own limitations. You are fighting for your limitations.
Yes.
And all you're going to get is more of that. And I heard a guy telling a story recently. This is an older gentleman, deep into his 70s,
You can't wait.
who had struck in. And I thought, that's how you're doing that? Oh, buddy, just wait. And because I know, as you know, I know that I'm going to live to be 120. I know it. It's why I smoked all my life.
Yeah,
you know
got
why?
to.
It's because I thought, listen, I'm never going to die. I need to do something to curtail this because I can't keep this going forever.
Save
Look
a
at this
few
fucking
years.
chassis.
Yeah.
But
build.
But I remember hearing this guy telling this story. And this is very recently, and he was talking about the fact that he kept using the word orphan. I'm an orphan. But it turned out his mom was still alive and very much in his life. But he was telling her, and he had struggled his whole life in and out of all sorts of stuff. And I thought, this poor son of a bitch. He's holding on to a story that's 65 years old.
Yeah.
And he keeps, and that is the thing that keeps holding him back. And like, why bother?
I know.
Yeah.
If I'm younger and I'm somewhere and I'm hearing this, I have to say I'm going to be like bullshit. You can, but I'm telling you, it is so fucking true because
It's so true because what happens is, look, it's really popular to roll out how shitty things are and how shitty you feel, and you're going to get a ton of people to co-sign on it.
I would argue, especially where you and I are from as well. People trade and that's the currency. Is
I mean, even though you're from Detroit, I'm from Toronto, they're only a couple hours apart
Yeah.
from each other. It's very sort of similar
Yeah.
part of the world, similar sensibility,
both hockey towns.
both
You
hockey
hate that.
towns. I know. We'll get into that in a
Yeah,
minute.
yeah, we will.
Detroit
Yeah,
is
we will.
not Hockeytown. They gave themselves that
But
name.
earmark that. Just earmark
Okay,
it.
earmark it. You can't give yourself your own nickname. Everybody knows you can't give yourself your own nickname.
Yeah, that's a good rule.
Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, but you know, the idea that negativity and all that stuff, look, you do it because you're going to elicit sympathy, or people are going to sign off on it, and people are going to go, yeah.
It's also just like a way to connect. It
way to
seems like
connect.
an easy way to connect.
But then if you try to come on and you're like, well, you know, things are good. I'm looking for this. This is happy, blah, blah, blah. People go, well, that's not sincere. Well, why is that less valid than the other?
Yes. And you find that in life, you're kind of gathering in your satchel some bad stories you can't wait to share. And by the way, the specific Detroit chip on the shoulder is almost every story is about a boss who's a fucking asshole,
Yeah.
who got his comeuppance, or this cocksucker at the gas station.
Yeah.
It's always like there's some
I got
villain.
fucked over.
They all end with, and I told this motherfucker, you can suck this ass. It's like, okay, well,
Good for you.
yeah, and I was like, oh, I get it. That's where I came from, and that was totally normal, and I got to break that habit.
But the problem is everybody thinks, and I have all these bad experiences, and I talk about it a lot, and I'm working through, and I'm going back, and I'm like, if you've got a time machine and you can go back and fix it, let me know where the time machine is. But you can't go into the past and fix that shit. So why are you spending time giving it air? A, let it die on the vine. And B, now all it is you're dragging it up into your experience. And people pay lip service to the idea of that it's all about the journey, blah, 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 blah. Well, the journey is now. You're talking about it right now.
Yeah,
And what
yeah,
are you waiting to get to? It's now. That's it.
Yeah.
What are you going to spend your time talking about?
Well, interesting, because my New Year's resolution was I'm going to start telling people I'm a great sleeper.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
It's just the simplest thing.
You need
Because you know
that.
what? Once a week I tell someone I'm a bad sleeper
Yeah.
and that I have insomnia. And guess
Yeah.
what? I go confirm that
Yeah.
7 nights a week.
If you say things are going to be hard for me, then guess what? Things are going to be hard for you.
Yeah.
Always. And it has really helped me turn the corner with my kids on this subject as well. I went to a thing at my kids' school where they were talking about, there was a math thing last year. They were telling the parents, walking them through this new way that they're teaching the kids math.
Oh, right.
It was really cool. And they go, who here, there was all these parents, who here is bad at math? And I, amongst half the other parents, put my hand up. You're bad at math. Why? Well, I was told I was bad at math. Okay, well, and then they broke down
So much
how they used to teach math, and it was a very sort of finite thing. The answer was either right or wrong.
Right.
Now what they do is they take them through and they look at your work and they say, well, actually, we looked at kids and the way they did stuff, and maybe in the process they missed one component,
Sure.
which made their answer wrong, but actually most of it was right. But what their whole point was, we're trying to encourage kids to look at where those mistakes were made, and actually we're finding a lot more success. These kids are turning out to be, they are pretty good at math. They made one little mistake, and their whole life, I mean, my whole life, I made that mistake. I was wrong. So I had shitty math scores.
Yeah.
And that's into the next thing, which is it doesn't have to be hard. We have this notion that things have to be hard in order for something to be of value. And
Yeah.
that's just not true.
Anytime I'm doing anything that like workout related or anything that's miserable, I'm like, oh, I'm going to get some major results. I have that so
Yeah.
linked in my head that I got to suffer.
No pain, no gain.
That's right.
bullshit.
That's right.
Bullshit.
You've probably figured out a way. I know you will.
Yeah.
Just get horizontal, hook up to the machine, and wake up ripped. If anyone could do it.
I wish. Yeah, I've been mixing it up more and getting outside. I've been doing that LA hiking thing,
What's that?
which is hiking.
Oh, I thought it was like an actual club.
It did
where you-
seem like a real
I know.
thing.
I know.
yeah.
It's
yeah,
not.
like hashtag LA hiking.
No. People call it hiking. I mean, it's really just going for a walk.
It's a
That's
walk
true.
uphill. Generally, it's uphill though. I guess that's
It
what
is uphill. It's a lot of
differentiates.
uphill.
Yeah. Okay, so I just want to go quick through the chronology because so we meet on that movie, and boy, I went into that going like, I don't think I'm going to like this guy because he's rich and I'm poor, and
We still haven't totally deciphered why, other than just his appearance.
it was a spidey sense thing that I felt.
Did you come from money?
No, I mean, I came from a good family. Sure. You
Upper
know.
middle class.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yes. So his father was the president of Molson and the CEO.
Yes, that's
and,
right.
and he was a Harvard-educated lawyer.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the prime minister sometimes ate at their house.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
But anyway.
Okay, but
vaguely.
anyway,
That's vaguely accurate.
Okay,
Okay.
vaguely accurate. So I wasn't completely off. The point
Yeah.
is, by the way, 100% my shit.
Yeah.
Okay, we go there within 5 minutes of that trip to Starbucks.
Yeah.
I am head over heels in love.
It was a full-on love affair. And I remember at the time my ex-wife saying, like, how's it going with that guy Dax? How's it? I go, it's unbelievable. Wait till he's moving in with us.
I wanted to.
I know.
I got the huge privilege, huge honor of being Babers 3, which
That's right.
I just think, because they were Babers
1 and 2.
Babers 1 and 2. And then,
Babers was a term that we used quite openly.
yeah. And I gently campaigned to maybe become Babers 3. And,
That's totally
they
true.
opened their arms and they took
that's
me in. I felt
nice.
so lucky.
That feels good. Yeah.
It was very sweet.
I felt very lucky. But we had so much fun. And then I'd be remiss to not bring up the key component, which is Dave Koechner of this movie.
Dave Koechner, what a delight he is.
Oh
He's
my,
a
that
national
baby
treasure.
Face. He is that baby face. And he gave us nicknames immediately. And
Yeah.
you became Barney. So whenever I talk about you, still to this day,
Yeah.
some 15 years later, I only call you Barney. And it's all from Dave Koechner.
And so Barney stemmed from, it was Bill Arnett, then
Barnett or
then
something.
Barnett, and then Barney. And so Barney, or just straight up Barnes.
Yep. There was a man on the movie, and his name was Miguel. But Miguel went by Mike. And so on a call sheet, for folks that don't know, you get a little sheet the day before, the next day of filming, and it says, like, what time you got to come into work. And then they put your name and what time you got to arrive. Well, we started noticing that they were writing Miguel the Mike.
Oh, wow.
They were writing the Mike, which was, we found so fascinating. And his name was Nino, which is the baby in Spanish.
Oh,
So we
sure.
started
Oh,
saying
boy. Oh,
the
boy.
Mike
Mike
the
the
baby. We were obsessed with the Mike the baby. And then we had this whole thing where, oh my God, Miguel Nino, by the way, did a great job in the movie. Super nice guy.
Super nice.
Anyways,
boy.
that's neither here nor there. One part that's really relevant for me is that the best part of doing that movie with you is that I was 6 months sober. I got sober in
Yeah.
September of 2004, and
Yep.
we went in like maybe February or something of 2005.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm going to be out of town. There's all these red flags for me, newly sober. And then you were sober, and I was like, what a fucking gift from
I
the
was
gods.
4.5 years sober.
Yes.
At the time, yeah.
What a blessing for me.
Yeah, that was right on time.
Uh-huh.
For both of us, really.
Yep.
They were in that place and that thing, and that we had the bulk of the scenes were together and all this stuff, and we spent all day and night together. We were both sober. Made a big difference.
Okay, so what's interesting, I think, for most people that know you is that you're a comedian, as you are, but you started as a serious actor.
Yeah.
You went to the Strasbourg, right?
Yeah, I did that. I was in New York, and I was trying to do like indie films, and I was trying to. The short answer is, I made that mistake in youth of thinking that I wanted people to take me seriously, which I've completely let go of. I could not have let go of it anymore.
Why do you think you wanted people to, like, look at
I don't
you
know.
as serious?
I think sometimes when you're young, like you think that there's a sort of a romantic notion to that.
Yeah, like a gravity.
Yeah,
Well,
gravity.
we're both romantics, right? That's why we
Yes.
became drunks.
Yes, I think that's true.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself a comedian per se. It's
Right.
weird when people say like, "What do you do?" Like, I'm like, I don't know.
I know, it's very curious. I can say this with full conviction. I've been on a lot of sets over the last 17 years. There's no human being funnier than Will Arnett on a set. I've been with all the comedians. There's nobody more fun and funny on a set than Arnett.
Wow.
So the notion that you would think you're not a comedian, but anyways, yeah, because you didn't do UCB or Second City or something.
Yeah, and whatever. I mean, I'm not a stand-up
But, right.
yet.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I guess Chevy Chase is on Saturday Night Live. I don't know. You and I both loved, that was our guy, right? Growing up.
Loved Chevy Chase. He was really charming, and he was so confident. And he was confident, but he was okay with making himself the butt of the joke too, and kind of looking foolish. You know what movie I just rewatched a few times in the last month is Midnight Run, and it really holds up.
it does.
And it is a perfect movie. And, tone in a movie is so hard. It's tonally perfect all the way through. Charles Grodin and De Niro. To me, it's peak De Niro. And people would be like, oh, well, what are you talking about? Raging Bull. I'm like,
Sure.
fuck off.
Yeah.
That's
Sounds
what I
like a
said.
kind of argument that would happen only in New York City, but continue.
Yeah, for sure. Or no,
you're right,
as
you're
you
right,
know,
you're
with
right.
Twitter and everything, everybody's an expert now.
Yeah.
Everybody,
Yeah, especially me.
everybody's an expert.
Yes.
It used to be that you just didn't have to hear everybody's opinion. Now you have to hear everybody's opinion. Ricky Gervais has this joke, which is like the whole idea of like, Twitter or social media or whatever outrage culture is the equivalent of going down into the middle of town and taking one of those, somebody's put up like a leaflet for guitar lessons, I think it is, with a bunch, you take the phone number off and grabbing the number and then screaming out, I don't want guitar lessons. I'm bludgeoning the joke, but the notion is
great.
right.
Still pretty great.
Which is like, the other one that I like that is the sort of the idea of self-centeredness or self-importance, which applies to me too, that I recognize and makes me laugh, is the old story of the analogy of the guy who's at a baseball game and he's watching the baseball game and he hears, hey, Phil. And he kind of turns around, kind of mad, and then he goes, hey, Phil. He's like, turns around. And he hears, hey, Phil. And he finally turns around and goes, hey, my name's not Phil. And that's the world we live in. You know what I mean? But also, we can laugh about it, and I'm not like hung up on like, oh, man, I really need to fix myself. No, I'm not here to fix myself.
Yeah. Oh, you're not.
No, we don't need to fix ourselves.
We don't. Tell me.
Well, if we're going to get into AA speak.
Yeah. I talk. Well, it's all up to you. I talk about AA all the time.
You do. If you take somebody through the steps and they're like, well, he might not be an alcoholic. Well, yeah, but this could also just help anybody. But here, so fourth and fifth step, super, super important. Couldn't be better for anybody. Sixth step, seventh step, humbly ask God to remove these shortcomings, right? Mm-hmm. Nowhere in there does it say, and go back and fix it. Nowhere. Mm-hmm. It doesn't say that.
Yeah.
That's really what has stuck out to me in the last couple of years. I don't need to double back and drill down on shit that doesn't work. There's no point. I can recognize it and let it go.
I've been mulling this over a lot lately, which is like, I'm aware of it. I recognize where it all stems from, it comes from, and when do I put that to bed? I guess I'm getting to the age, and you're a few years ahead of me.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, okay, I understand it. I've dealt with it. I've explored it, and maybe now it's time to move on. I'm confused exactly how I do that, but I have been thinking. Again, it's the story thing. It's like, oh, I'm a dyslexic, and I'm a this, and I'm a that, and I.
Well, that's your whole card that you're holding on to, and the question is, do you want that to be the thing that defines you?
Right.
Do you want to be defined as a dyslexic?
Kind of, but not
Just for better parking?
Yes, I want much better parking.
But I mean, you know what I mean? Like, what is it that
No,
you're
you want to be. Your identity is that you're someone who's overcome dyslexia.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. You're right. That seems like a virtue, and so I guess I'm probably bragging.
And by the way, okay.
Well, I saw. You know what? I learned this by being in a lot of press with another actor. You can learn so much from watching other people about yourself. And so this story that the person was telling, which was dead true, which is like came from nothing, and then now is this, and I was just watching it over and over again, and I was like, oh, yeah, and so what? That's my story, too, and I lean into that all the time. And, like, who really cares? The impressive thing is you're doing what you're doing today.
Yeah, and the truth is, you're a really smart, and I'm not just saying, you're a really smart, charismatic, funny, loving, great friend. Our joke used to always be like, you want somebody to describe you as like a great friend.
So generous.
Such a great listener. What did they say about me? Like but it's true. And you are all those things, and super funny guy, super creative, all those things. So whatever else you're telling, you're the only one who's telling that story.
Oh, I know. And then also the things that I've evaluated that are attractive about me, I'm so wrong about so many times. I had the most profound moment doing chips, right?
Yeah.
I'm in a car, and I'm going to drift the car through this intersection in downtown Long Beach. There's going to be 3 cars coming opposite ways, and then I'm just going to miss this guy who's going to jump into a van, and I'm following the camera car about 4 feet off the lens. And I didn't want to practice because I didn't want to lay down rubber marks in the intersection. So you
were doing this stuff.
And I'm directing it. And it's not even my character. It's Michael Pena's character.
But you're driving.
I'm driving, right? And so I had been telling myself up to that point, well, I love doing this stuff. That's why I'm even doing it. But I was sitting in the car seconds before action, and I thought, I've put myself in a really silly situation. Like, I'm directing them. If I fuck this up, like, the movie shuts down. And then I was like, why did I do this? Why? And I'm like, oh my God, I think if I asked everyone I know to list the top 3 things they like about me, good driver would be number 1. And the absurdity hit me. Nobody would list that about me. Nobody cares.
Well, nobody does care. And I will say this. There are two thoughts on that. One is There are very few people that I don't mind being in the passenger seat for. And those two people are you and Bateman. Many times we've been in the car together and I just let Dax drive. And I remember last year Bateman and I went to a Rams playoff game and I picked him up and I got there and he came out and I was like, yeah, you drive. Which is so funny because in every other respect in our relationship, I'm in the driver's seat. Right. But no, that's not true. But what I was going to say was I got that Porsche. So years ago, Bateman had a 911. Mm-hmm. And I remember he was driving me to the airport. Weirdly, he was driving me to the airport one day. And he goes, do I look like an asshole driving this car? And I said, yeah, you do. And I said, you do. And then I ordered that car. You know, this is years later. I ordered that car 10 years later. And he goes, oh, I go, you asked if you did. I look fine. But you know, and so, yes, I know you're a good driver. But if somebody said to me, what do you like about Dax? It wouldn't even occur to me to say that.
My wife, she helped me with a breakthrough, which is like, I think she likes that if shit goes down, I'm going to protect her physically.
Right.
And she told me, you know, that makes me feel more danger. Like, I feel more in danger that you're willing to engage in a fist fight all the time.
Sure.
And I'm like, oh my God, that's the opposite of what I thought.
Yeah. Well, think about all those things, though. They're very sort of primal, like fist fight and good driver.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, it's
it's
all
like masculinity 101.
Yeah, it's stuff that you bring into junior high school. The first day of junior high school.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I feel like we really related on that. I still will remember you telling the story of being on the street in Toronto.
Oh, yeah. And that to me, really defining moment in my life when I was about, I forget, I was 15 or 16 years old and I was standing waiting for some buddies in Toronto. I remember it as if it was yesterday, even though it was 1986. And I was leaning against a potted tree and I was smoking a cigarette and I was looking cool. I was wearing like high top Chuck Taylors.
Yeah.
I was wearing like green sort of Dickies type pants, but they were tapered.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was wearing like some kind of Jackass T-shirt, I forget, and I was wearing a bandana.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
like
Full head
bandana,
Almost like a
full head,
do-rag.
like a
Okay,
do-raggy type,
do-rag.
right?
Yeah. All right.
And I'm
Which is a
smoking.
big swing.
Big swing.
Yeah.
And I was 16, and I probably looked about 11. And so, because I'm cursed with this young looks.
Oh, baby.
So sorry.
So I'm sitting there and I'm smoking cigarette and looking all cool and probably, as Bateman would say, got the smoke eyes, like all squinty, like looking up, trying to look cool. Yeah. And these three people come towards me, two guys and a girl, sort of college age, and they're engaged in conversation. And as they get close, and I'm just looking, smoking all, and the guy closest to me on the outside just turns out of his conversation, never breaks stride, and he looks at me and he goes, "What's up, cool guy?" And kept walking. And I felt my spine come out of my body. I shit my spine out. And I thought, the guy, he just cut me down to size in that moment. And everything that I didn't want to hear, I heard in that, right?
Wow.
And ever since, I've thought about it so many times. This guy doesn't know.
Oh, the impact.
The impact. He probably an hour later he forgot. If that, a minute.
Oh, yeah.
He had such a huge impact, and it's always stayed with me, which is just like, get over yourself. You know, it's funny, like even hearing you say, like when we first started hanging out, the first time we met and going to do the movie, and you were worried about like this guy and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Sometimes I think people have this impression of me that I'm this guy who thinks that I'm so cool, or better than, and I'm just... As you know, I'm not.
No, 1,000%. 1,000%. Totally my error and my baggage.
No, I'm not saying that.
No, but it's true.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
Can I out your ritual while we were doing Let's Go to Prison?
Yeah, let's go.
It was fucking awesome. So we're in this, as I said, but you couldn't call it corporate housing. It was worse than that.
Sure.
It was in Bolingbrook, which is a fine place, but, not too exciting. On the weekends, Barney would go into Chicago.
Yeah.
And he would get himself a room at the Peninsula, was it?
Yep.
And he would take a long bath and watch golf because there was a TV in front of the bathtub, and he'd lay in the tub and watch golf and smoke cigarettes and drink
coffee. The bathtub was also against the window that looked out over the city.
Oh, I love a bathtub.
You have to treat yourself the way you want to be treated.
I know, but I had a hard time doing that.
Makes sense.
Dax always had a lot of plans. Dax had it all very planned out. Well, what's going to happen is then I'm going to do this movie. I'm going to get $20 million for this.
Yep.
Then I'm going to get $20 million for that.
Yep.
He also had a backup plan. If that didn't go, he knew exactly how he could live for the rest of his life on X, Y, and Z.
You're right. I always had two functioning plans. One is I'm never making $1 again, but I'm also going to be making $20 million a movie quite soon.
Yeah.
and then that plan was really well thought out. Like I knew exactly what cars I'd be buying, where I'd live, all that. So I had two plans working at the same time. But again, the
How
story
did either of those plans work
it
out?
well, as you know, I've only made $19 million a movie,
Yeah,
so I never
you're
got.
not quite there. Not quite there.
You maxed out at 19, remember? You know what? This year,
Yeah.
all hindsight is 2020, by the way.
Boom. Boom.
Okay, boom. First joke of the
Correct.
first joke of the decade. Here we go.
So when we did Let's Go to Prison, you and I both were getting opportunities that I had never had, and you hadn't had either. How hard it is to manage that and make the right decisions.
Yeah.
Weirdly, Bateman, who had already been through that thing that you and I hadn't been through, was so smart about how he navigated that. I just always think back on that and go like, wow, Bateman was so smart.
Well, don't forget, Bateman had those opportunities when he was young.
Yeah.
And he was really smart about it this time. There were times when he just decided like he wasn't going to do stuff, even if you remember, he was going to do Heartbreak Kid when we were doing Prison. He and Amy were going to do it, and they were about to start, and he bailed.
Yeah.
And
I think
that was
you
the
and
only
I-
fight Bateman and I ever had was over that. And it was a greenlit movie. They were ready to go. And at the last minute, it just wasn't right for him. And at the time, I was like, because he just kind of bailed. And I was like, hey, man, like what the, we were tight, all of us.
Yeah.
And I felt like he had kind of bailed.
You probably just got protective of Amy.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure I did. It was the only time we've ever had a fight. In retrospect, of course, he was doing what he had to do. And it is a very difficult thing to manage. And I used to get kind of bummed out about it or down about it. It's a really tricky thing. It's weird. I don't know if it's because I knew I was coming here to do this, but I was thinking about Bob Odenkirk. And Bob and I, we did the movie, the three of us, and Bob Odenkirk directed it. And Bob was a guy, sort of comedically as a performer, and especially as a writer and creator, was a guy who
We
was
looked up to.
He was incredible. Mr. Show.
Oh, God, yeah.
Not long after that, I went and did Brother Solomon that Will Forte had written for us to do.
Yeah.
It was a brilliant script, and it just didn't work for a bunch of different reasons. And Bob and I created a rift between Bob and I for a few years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I think he felt kind of guilty, and I was kind of mad about sort of certain decisions or
Sure.
all that kind of stuff that now, years later, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But years later, I ran into him. He was at a wedding in like Ojai, and he was on the back of a golf cart. And he jumped off, and he came over, and he was like, hey, man, I just want to say, I'm so sorry about how all that went down. He was so big about it in such a great way. And I go, me too. But with life is what's so funny too is that made me think was Bob came off Brother Solomon. I remember him telling me like he was really down. And he was like, in that conversation, he's like, I don't think anybody will ever let me direct again, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And he was really kind of down.
Yeah.
And he ended up doing Breaking Bad and then Better Call Saul. And his life has gone a totally different way that I bet you he would tell you that he didn't imagine 10 years ago.
I ran into him at the grocery store.
You did?
Very similar experience.
Yeah.
And here he was just about to start Saul, his own show. And he was very much like, yeah, I can't believe this is where I'm at. Which, by the way, I'm in the now exact same position where I directed Chips. It didn't work. I had a total, what am I now? My identity was I'm a writer-director. That's what I'm doing for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
And guess what? You're not. Now what? And now I'm doing this, and I'm so much happier.
Again, that's, young people who are listening. Even the fact that I'm saying young people, they're like, turn the dial. But in the last couple of years, first of all, I don't peg my happiness on what I'm doing. I'm just happy no matter what, and then everything else just rolls out. And for me, it's the lowest hanging fruit. Are my kids happy? Are my kids healthy? I'm alive today. I'm sober. I'm whatever, all those kind of great things. Yeah. And everything else is gravy. And I've never been happier than I am right now in my life. It's been a weird road, but phenomenal.
Yeah.
And had to go this way. And when it comes to work and all that kind of stuff, getting back to what you were saying about having all these opportunities, both of us had a lot of opportunities at that time to do a lot of things. And I went the way I went because this was the way I was supposed to go.
Yeah.
BoJack was a hilarious script. And we made this like short pilot presentation, and it got passed on by everybody. And I thought, I don't know. It's really funny, but I don't know. It was just kind of this thing that became this other thing.
But which, by the way, I just watched for the first time like 6 months ago, and I was astounded with how funny it is. It's so fucking funny.
It's really, yeah, he's brilliant. All those writers, and Raphael, who created it, is brilliant.
Oh my God. Have you ever seen it?
No, but
Will
he
is a
was
horse.
I've heard. Yes, I know the premise. It sounds.
I love the
so
setup. Here's the
funny.
setup.
Barney's a horse, and he's an ex-star.
There's a lot of like, trust me, when I was going through some dark times, I'm like, oh my God. I actually said to Raphael at one point, I'm like, are you just
Are you minding my
Are you
life?
just minding what's going on with me right now because I'm having a tough time? And then he ended up getting sober again when and I was like, wow, this is like so crazy. But again, like those things, like things just happen. And now I'm so much more sort of, I just go with the flow, which kind of leads to, I'm doing this thing for Lego, which is I'd make all these Lego movies, I'd do Lego Batman and do all that stuff. And it becomes such a weirdly, if you told me 10 years ago, hey, you know what's going to be a really important part of your life? If I had to make the list and I had to write 1,000 things down, Lego wouldn't have been in the top 1,000.
No. Yeah, we probably wouldn't have hit 1 million.
So they come to me and they're like, hey, we want you to like host this show, this Lego Builders show. I'm like, I don't know how to host. And they're like, that's okay. You can play on the fact as much as you want that you don't know what you're doing. I was like, great. So it's become this like meta thing where the whole time I'm like, all right, so I'm sitting here talking to you, and this is very strange that you're 10 feet away from me. But anyway, we're doing a reality show, And I had a really great time doing it. It was very enjoyable. By the way,
They're awesome, huh?
incredible. Mind blowing. We had these people, we had 2 teams in this competition show where everybody had to build bridges that were a 6-foot span. So
love
from
that.
they had a post, like a big, huge post from here and here, and they would wheel it back to their station, and they had 8 or 9 hours to build a 6-foot span bridge out of Lego pieces. And then we were going to test them to see which one could hold the most weight. 2 of them did not break at 1,000 pounds.
No! Come on.
Out of Lego.
Are they using glue?
Nope.
No. Holy
The
shit. I could have
engineering-
built our house.
Insane.
The engineering was so like that kind of stuff. And it's been like,
That's so cool.
I ended up having a super fun time doing it.
It looks fucking awesome.
Incredible. Lego's been so great because it's something that my kids are super into, and it's been such a great thing to be able to do and share a work thing that they're legitimately into.
Yeah. Okay, now back to our stuff.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. There's so many things I now in retrospect can own, which is, so I was definitely jealous that you were invited into a lot of comedy circles that I, in my mind, in my story I was telling myself, was excluded from, even though I wasn't. These people weren't even thinking about me. They didn't make a decision, we don't like Dax.
No.
You were in the Red Hour world with Stuart and Ben.
Because we'd done Blades of Glory.
Blades of Glory, right.
And I knew Ben
and
a
then
little
you,
bit.
And you knew Will Ferrell. And I was
Yeah.
just like, oh my God, you worked with Will Ferrell. I wanted you to tell me every single thing he did, every moment you were with him.
Yeah.
You told me some good ones. Like he had a bit going where he kept saying he had eaten some tainted shrimp the night before.
It was one of our, actually I just ran into him recently and we were going over that bit and he was saying, I think it's one of my favorite bits of all time was that he was addicted to day-old seafood.
So I was envious of that. I was like, why aren't I in this club?
Well, what was funny was I never considered myself a comedian. So I started doing Arrested Development and Amy and I were dating, and then 6 months into us dating, she got SNL. And I was kind of living out here, and she's like, I'm going to do SNL. And I said, yeah. So we just moved back to New York. We just moved in together. And so that's when I first got to know Will, and then all those people. And so I was like hanging around SNL for like the first year and a half, and then I go do Arrested Development, and then everybody's like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
Your husband's an actor? I didn't even know he was or boyfriend at the time.
Yeah. And he's also the funniest guy on primetime television
You
now.
know, well, I don't know about that. I was the beneficiary of a lot of great writing and, a character where they could kind of let a lot of stuff out.
Well, yeah, that's gracious of you to give them that credit. But again, it's one of those roles, we've talked about this on here a bunch. It's like, that's why I love Will Forte, is like when you watch Will Forte, anything he makes, you're like, well, I can't plug anyone else into that. Sure, the writing's great on Last Man on Earth. It's the funniest show ever. But also, no one can do that role but him.
God, he's a
That's
delight.
what makes it so wonderful. And I can't see anyone else doing Job, to be honest, and it being and working like that. I mean, it's really uniquely you as well.
It was such a weird, it totally happened on accident, really. So I had done a pilot the year before, and it went to air. And between making the pilot and the series, I got fired. Basically, they wrote my character out.
Okay,
and I was devastated. And I was like the fifth wheel on the show. And I remember Brian Callen at the time. I was totally bummed out. And he called me and he goes, "Hey man, what's going on?" And he goes, "You're still bummed out about that?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "What, you're bummed out that you're not the guy who comes in every other episode, walks into a scene and goes, 'Hey, what the hell happened to my couch?'" and he really put it in perspective for me.
Yeah.
And I went, "Yeah, you're right." And then I said, "You know what, fuck it." And Amy was doing SNL, and I decided I'm just going to stay in New York. I was doing a lot of voiceover. I'm just going to do this. And I started working on this play, and I was in rehearsal for this play, and I just thought, I'm not going to do TV again. Screw everybody. And a few months later, my manager, old Peter Principato.
Oh, Sweet Pete.
Sweet Pete, still my guy.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I love that about
Yeah,
you.
I love Peter.
Yeah, been with him for 20 years?
Yeah. I mean, he was one of my first agents in 93, so I've known him forever.
Oh, 17 years.
Yeah,
No,
27.
more. 27 years. Sweet Pete.
And so he called me up and he goes, "Look, they're looking for this they got this show and they got this role." And he goes, "Oh, this script is great. It's so funny. You should." And I said, "No." And Peter said, "The woman who cast the show you did last year is casting this pilot." And she called me, Deb Barilski. One of the nicest things that's ever happened to me in show business. I got fired from that show. She sent me a written letter. I got in the mail in my apartment from Deb. And she wrote and she said, "Hey, listen, I know it was really hard that your character got written out, you got fired, but I want you to know I think you're a talented guy and I think you're a really funny guy. And just know that there are so many better things out there for you that you're going to do great things." And when I was really low, nobody's ever, there was such a kindness she did not need to do. And I've never, sort of forgotten that. Of course, it was huge to me at the time. It really did heal a lot of wounds.
Yeah.
So she calls me now 6 months later and says, "You've got to come in and read for this." Even though I've already said no a couple of times because they couldn't find this character of Job. And so I was in New York, so oh, fuck it. So they faxed me the sides. And, and I took the subway uptown. I was like, I'll just go and put myself on tape at this place. And went up, read, took a swing just based on I didn't even read the script, just based on these scenes.
Yeah, this faxed.
This faxed, like barely legible, And I just went I just did whatever I wanted. I just kind of threw it out there and had this big thing. And then ultimately, they called the next day and they're like, "They want you to come out to California and blah, blah, blah." And it was like, "Really? Oh, all right." And I went out and I read and I tested. I remember I saw Tony. I knew Tony Hale a little bit because his wife, Martell, was doing makeup sometimes on SNL.
That's right.
Yeah. And so he and I were at this hotel over by Fox, over in Pico there. And we walked over to test together on a Monday morning.
Really?
Yeah. And just wide-eyed. And we rolled in there and then it tested and ended up, doing the thing. And then they're like, "Oh, you got to stay. You're going to do the pilot." I was like, oh, okay. And my life just changed in that moment. And what was great was years later, I was doing this show, The Millers, with Greg Garcia. And Greg Garcia says to me one day, "Were you really bummed when you got fired from that pilot?" And I go, "Oh, no. It actually ended up great. If I'd done that show, then I wouldn't have been available for Arrested Development. Everything worked out exactly." I mean, by the way, that was more evidence that everything works out.
Yeah.
And my sort of optimism, as you call it, that was, I've always kind of believed that.
Yeah.
And it was more evidence that everything works out. I said, "No, I was so happy that I got fired because I wouldn't have been able to do Arrested Development." He goes, "Good, because I worked on that pilot with those guys and I told them you need to cut that character."
Oh, no way.
And years later, he and I ended up doing a show together.
Oh, my goodness.
Whoa.
How crazy is that?
That is crazy.
Yeah. And people say to me like, "Oh, you're always playing the asshole." And I'm like, I don't really look at it that way. I've always loved characters who are super confident and super dumb.
Yeah.
Like that
It's a great combo.
for me, it's just magical.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a perfect elixir.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
So what people, most people will know, but some people won't know, is that you have this whole other career which is voiceover. Like you've been the voice of GMC trucks for what? How many years now?
I'm in my 22nd year.
22nd year.
Yeah, so it's been a total of 21 years in going, and now in.
Maybe this is unknowable, but is that a record for the longest spokesperson ever? I feel like it has to be.
I don't know. I haven't really investigated it.
I interviewed
because-
Sam Elliott and we talked about you.
No way.
Oh, yeah.
Does he know who I am?
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Come on.
You two are like the fucking best voices in the biz.
Well, because he does the Ram.
He's done them all.
Yeah,
he's done
them all.
every truck brand. He's done multiple beer campaigns. Yeah.
I love the way he does that.
I was working with Sam for a whole year last year, doing the sitcom on Netflix. The
Ranch.
Ranch.
Oh, I didn't know you were on the Ranch.
Oh, yeah,
I never saw. I didn't watch anything. You know that.
Oh,
Because
we used to fight about this
we
all
used
the
to
time.
fight it 'cause
I would always go to you. You know, Will, you're in film and television. You might want to start liking some of it.
I know. I mean,
You liked one movie, With Nell and I.
With
That's
Nell
the
and
only
I,
movie you've ever seen.
and
that you
Midnight
liked.
Run.
Midnight Run.
and then Toronto Maple Leafs hockey.
Yes.
Yeah, you've met Shanny with me before, Brendan Shanahan.
I
think.
haven't.
Brendan runs the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's the greatest guy, and he tells a story when he worked for the league. He was a Hall of Fame hockey player, incredible career as a player. Then he worked for the league. So he's working for the league. We're in New York, and he calls me one day. I was out here, and he goes, I had to call somebody. I had to tell somebody, but I can't tell anybody yet because it's not official, and I can't tell my mom because I'm worried that she'll tell people what she's trying to. And his wife Catherine said, "Just you got to call and tell the only person who will care, which is Will." He goes, I'm going to be the president of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I pause and I go, Shanny, this is huge for us. And he always talks about it. He's like, what do you mean us? This is, and we go to events, I like see somebody. And I remember we were at the Olympics in Vancouver years ago, like 10 years ago. And then I see like Matt Sundin, who used to play for the Leafs. I go, Shanny, go talk to Matt Sundin.
Get him going.
Get him going in conversation so that you can introduce me. And then he's like, oh, Jesus. Hey, Matt, this is my buddy Will. Oh, I didn't see you there.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, sorry, I digress.
Great.
One of my hobbies is watching television and just being on high alert for you because you really can't watch 2 hours of television and not hear you. That's for real. Like so, right now it's Reese's peanut butter cups.
Reese's, yeah.
You're all over those,
Yeah.
and they're blasting those.
Not sorry.
Oh, he's not sorry.
You
at
probably
all.
buy these everywhere. You can probably get them at a bank. Like a new one that I do in the last 6 months, I guess, or almost a year, which is a Detroit company's Rocket Mortgage.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
so I do the Rocket Mortgage now, which
And
is
what's
push
that?
button get mortgage.
Oh, man, you can make.
Yeah.
You know what? The copywriters must love you because they're like, "Oh, this is pretty good," and then they run it through the Barney filter, and it's just fucking Shakespearean.
I have a few
It's
guys that I
Shakespearean.
love, or like old school VO guys. The guy that used to be my idol was this guy, Hal Riney. He actually owned an ad agency out of San Francisco, and he put himself on tape. I think what happened was he was like the temp guy, and then he was so good at it, and he became a big voiceover guy in addition to having this big ad agency. He's long since passed.
Double dip.
Double dip. But he used to do these ads. You'll recognize the cadence because he did for Perrier. Remember, it's like, there is a town in France where the water comes out of the ground.
Does sound very familiar.
Right? So he does that, right? And then you have this guy, Doug Jeffers, who used to do all these Miller High Life ads.
Yeah.
There's a really famous one. It was like an empty can of mayonnaise, and you see like a spoon in it, and it goes, we had to bail them out of 2 world wars, but you had to hand it to them on mayonnaise. Nice going, Pierre. So like in the 90s in New York, I did a lot of voiceover, all day, every day. I'd have 7, 8 auditions a day. And, you go from place to place and you see the same guys.
Right.
And these guys are incredible what they do. They're so good. And I was just trying to draft off them.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you my Ratatouille story?
No.
I don't think I've ever said this publicly, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
So I'm doing Arrested Development, and I get a call, and they said that they offered me to do a role on Ratatouille. Great, Brad Bird. It was my second one. I had done a voice of a bird in Ice Age 2.
Oh, right.
Okay, so they go, come, you're going over to Disney to record this thing, Pixar movie, and great. So I was busy. I was doing stuff. I was working. Who knows what the hell I was doing? My bullshit
In the
life.
tub watching,
stuff
the
that I thought was
Masters.
important at the time. And so I go over there, and there'd been a few emails and stuff had been sent, and I just didn't pay attention. I just was like, "Tell me where to be."
Yeah.
So I show up, and I get in there, and he's there. Of course, I don't know what I was thinking. And there he is, Brad. I'm like, holy shit! And he's like, "So you got all the stuff we sent to all the art and stuff that we sent over your character?" And I go, "Yeah." Yeah, no. Well, the art. Yeah, I got the art.
I just looking at it in the car.
So I'm start going. And he goes, okay. So we walk in the booth, and he's like, "Here's your," and this is Horst, your guy, and obviously he's German. I'm like, obviously, he's German, and I'm thinking, motherfucker.
Yeah, you need to watch like a YouTube video
And
to hear
what
how
am
the
I-
Germans
and
talk.
do I do a German? I mean, maybe I do like a bar trick version. I could do
sure.
like a word. What the fuck am I going to do? And I start panicking, flop sweating, and he's in the booth with me as he is. He's like, "Let's get going." I'm like, "Okay, let's get going." And under the fucking gun, non-rehearsed, my name is Horst, and here I am, and we just start doing it. And I did the whole fucking movie over a couple of days. We ended up becoming sort of friends, and he was really sweet with me and great. But I never told him that I didn't prep it at all.
And had not seen the artwork.
I'd not seen the artwork, and I knew nothing about the movie
Or Germany
or
at that
Germany
time.
or anything.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
It
But
was
but you have a real genius for it.
Wow.
No,
Clearly.
you really do. My wife does as well. I mean, she's an
She's
incredible.
incredible at it. Incredible. I didn't have a singing background like she does in that sense, but years of doing voiceover, like I can look at a sentence, and if you tell me like, we need this in 6 seconds, I can tell you whether or not I can do it in 6 seconds, 5 seconds, 4 seconds,
Right.
Wow,
based
yeah.
on how it looks. And what you have to do also is like, certainly when I did Lego Batman for not just Lego movies, but Lego Batman, where I had to do a lot of stuff, really a lot of stuff on my own. And what you're always doing is going, okay, wait, what's going on? Okay, so you're coming in, you're going to walk in, Batman's walking in here, he's going to go over, he's going to make dinner, now he's going to grab the thing, blah, 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 blah. And so truly it sounds so stupid. You got to use your imagination. You got to think about distance from me to the other character.
Yeah.
What that all that,
how loud you'd be talking.
how loud, and so you got a lot of things playing at once as you're doing stuff, and it's weirdly exhausting in such a specific way. I'd leave those sessions. I'm like, man, I'm cooked.
Yeah.
Really, really cooked. I did a show for 2 seasons on Netflix called Flaked.
I watched a good deal of it.
You did?
Yeah.
And it ended up becoming, in that time, a very confusing time for me and for my sobriety and all that kind of stuff.
Well, and the show is about a guy who's sober and going to meetings, and then he's drinking at night.
Yeah.
And when I was watching, I was like, and I hadn't been talking to you much at that point.
Yeah.
I think maybe I had invited you several times to my meeting, and you didn't
Yeah.
want to go. And I was like, making no conclusion, just like, oh, I wonder if this is somehow like he's kind of expressing what's going on in his head right now.
Yeah, it definitely was. It was one of the hardest things was there was, especially like, I remember at the time being frustrated with reviews and people are like, this is not a real depiction of, what sobriety is like, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, motherfucker, this is happening in real time. You have no idea.
This is my
Yeah. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I think it actually, weirdly enough, I sort of stand by the show, and now years later, it really holds up in ways that I don't think people. We weren't trying to make a overt comedy or a drama. It was just about, because I always felt like you wake up in the morning, you don't go, today's going to be a comedy day, or today's going to be, shit just happens at different speeds at different times of the day all the time.
I fantasize as I would. I haven't drank in 15 years, a little over. I imagine I could get a sweet spot for a little while before I resumed into no control. Was there a sweet spot?
You know what? Honestly, for me, it's never about sort of burn it down.
Right.
It was just much more about how I feel spiritually, and it's just not for me.
Yeah.
It's just not who I am. It's not how I want to live on this planet.
And I remember you and Letterman had a really great exchange.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You said something and then he repeated what you said. Do you remember that?
When I think it was, it's just, he goes, you don't drink. I go, no, drinking just doesn't agree with everybody else in my life. It was something like that.
Yeah,
and he
and
loved
you
it.
got
Oh,
him.
that's great.
He was one of the guys, for me, one of my all-time.
Oh, yeah.
Just it.
Yeah.
And one of the great thrills was we went to commercial, and he turned in and he said, I just started watching Arrested Development. It was a few years after it had been off the air. And he said, I just really couldn't love it anymore. It's so brilliant, and you do such a great job. And I thought, like, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the validation I've been looking for my whole life, was from David Letterman. One of the funnier moments, I've told this a million times, is you and I were going into the Spotted Pig in New York, which we went to a lot.
Yeah.
It's about noon on a Wednesday, let's say. And on the first floor, we see Jake Gyllenhaal having lunch with some friend, somebody, and he's wearing aviator sunglasses. And we're inside. And we walk by, and we're going to go upstairs as we usually do. And we're just out of sight, but we're not upstairs yet, but we're at the stairs. But Dax, who's got, I don't know if you know that Dax's voice can carry.
Okay, news
I don't know
to
if
me.
you've noticed.
Yeah.
Dax goes, fucking sunglasses inside.
I did. I don't even remember that.
We start laughing. We go upstairs. We kill our burgers. We eat in like 12 minutes. And now we're going back down, and we come downstairs, and there he is. We pass Jake Gyllenhaal, and his glasses are off. And we went outside.
I don't like that
and
story.
we immediately felt so shitty.
You didn't need to feel shitty.
No. We felt so shitty. And Dax, you were like, God damn, I want to go and say something to that guy. I really was.
That guy.
Yeah, I know. And I didn't know it. I don't think either of us knew him.
No, I since
did.
have met him in Toronto.
Me too. He's super nice.
Yeah, he's a super nice guy. Well, the other weird thing that this all came about, I was doing Baby Mama. By some weird course of things, I start hanging out a little bit with Josh Hartnett.
Oh, yeah.
We're up in the Catskills. We're laying on the grass, looking up at the sky. We're just chatting about acting and God knows what. I, of course, am triggered by him because he's a fancy actor and I feel less than, all these things. And he says to me, do you remember seeing me at Spotted Pig? It was you and Will Arnett. And you guys walked in. By the way, same exact story almost. I didn't see him, and I don't doubt you did either. But we were laughing. And he said, were you guys laughing at me like, oh, these fucking serious actors take themselves so serious? Were you guys having like a chuckle about me?
No way.
And I go, no, I never saw you there. And then it was like Matrix, where I was like, oh, Jesus, here's us comedians. We're threatened by Josh Hartnett. Josh Hartnett's afraid the comedians are laughing at the fucking. It's all high school. Everyone's insecure. And what a breakthrough. I'm like,
But you were laughing at Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh no!
Well, sunglasses inside, it's a big swing. I wouldn't do it today.
And here I will say in Dax's defense, again, it turns out neither of us know the guy at all, and he's a very nice guy, sweet guy.
Yes.
So it's based on zero, right? And we're the idiots here, and really it's him. I didn't say anything, but I remember one time I put sunglasses on because we live in California, and Dax goes, oh, what? We wear sunglasses now? Do you remember this?
No.
Because you never used to wear sunglasses.
No, I just discovered them like 5 years ago.
Dax never wore sunglasses, and so I remember like being like him shaming me for wearing sunglasses.
Sure.
Oh my God, you had a real sunglass.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, it's
Wow.
just so much stuff I had.
Oh,
I will still
boy.
have, I'm sure, on some level. But I will say that I liked about you the same thing I liked about my best friend Aaron Weekly. That armor that he gave me, which is like, my job in life is to make you laugh. And if I'm making you laugh, then I don't really care what the collateral damage is, or I'm not worried about anyone judging me. I feel so safe. I just want you to laugh. And then that gave me some kind of armor. And I certainly had that when we were friends. Oh, if Barney's laughing.
Oh, my God.
I'm like, oh, we're good. The one thing I do think is really interesting that we both have is that the weight of being a shared identity in a couple, which I have currently.
Yeah.
And it's so dicey for me at times because I'm like, oh, I have this shared identity. And I'm pretty certain if something went sideways, which could happen at any moment, I think America's going to side with her. Like, I think I'm probably out in that scenario. America's sweetheart.
I'll say this. Somebody actually tagged me on Twitter. This woman, she was like a beat reporter for like a Minnesota TV station saying like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm Team Amy. And I wanted to respond and go, we're human beings in a relationship, and our relationship fell apart.
It's
really sad.
heartbreaking. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
We have 2 kids.
Yeah.
And this is not some fucking game.
Yeah, yeah.
And what are you talking about? And you have no fucking clue of what our
Yeah.
experience is.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter now when I see that all these years later.
But it is fascinating. It is like another element to have to juggle. Relationships are already hard, and then you got to juggle this other thing where it's like we have this shared persona.
It took me a long time to get over it. It was really tough early on. Really tough. And I actually thought, to be honest, I thought that you guys were like edging me out.
Oh, Belle and I?
Yeah.
No.
No, now I don't. But like
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
time, I felt really
Yeah.
isolated.
From my side of the street, I would say one is most of the times I saw you was with you and Thoreau.
Yeah.
who I love Thoreau.
Yeah.
I love it. But I can't compete. The level of closeness you guys have, I think when I was around that, I was like, oh, I used to have that connection with Will. I don't. Thoreau has it. And I'm kind of like trying to get involved, and I'm not doing a good job. And I'm self-conscious. So just my own enjoyment was like, these two are speaking a language I don't speak. I used to be in that slot. I'm not now. I'm not resentful. I just don't know where I play into this.
But as you know, I have a lot of close guy friends, and so do you. But I'm also like, it's never at the expense of other people. So I don't like, because I'm friends with him, that the love I have that I'm spending on him is now reserved for him, and there's not enough of it. There's not a finite amount.
Right.
Like, I love you.
Yeah.
Because I love you.
Yeah.
And
you guys hang nonstop, and you have about
Yeah.
1,000 inside bits, which
Yeah.
are hysterical.
Yeah.
But I was just on the outside of it. I felt like I was on the outside of it. And then also just compounded with 6 years ago, I had a kid. My whole life is fucking kids.
same.
And the only people I see are people with
Yeah.
same age kids, and that's my circle. And there's nothing personal.
yeah, your life gets busy, and your kids are. I think that one of the reasons the Bateman and I stayed together was also they live really close to me, and our kids are similar ages, and our kids play together.
Right. That's everything.
It's everything.
Yes. I don't know what your experience is, but I do know, like, when I ran into you recently,
Yeah.
I could tell that you and I had both let go of our careers in a very healthy way, that our identities were no longer that thing. And I know for certain mine comes from having kids.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if your kids were a breakthrough in that way.
Certainly my kids were. And I think that I kind of came to it a little bit earlier, to be honest, because we've talked about it before, even back in the day, that you did hold on tightly to that because it was very important to you. And it
Oh,
was-
God,
and-
yeah.
And I think that we had conversations around it where, like, I felt bad for you sometimes at how much you lived and breathed by every moment of ups and downs in career.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't, but because I could see it in you, it weirdly helped me a lot. Strangely.
Yeah.
And then you start to recalibrate what success means to you.
Yeah.
And success to me now, and for the last few years, has meant happiness. And so my starting point is I'm happy no matter what. I create my own weather. So as long as I'm happy no matter what, everything else is just kind of noise. And happiness, like I said before, for me is just, I always just reach for the lowest hanging fruit to get me there. And I build momentum on that. My kids are happy. My kids are safe. And then everything else, it doesn't really kind of matter. And then I end up doing what I want. And I also I go and I do stuff and I let it go and I don't think about it.
Yeah, that's what I've learned to do. It's an AA thing. I'm in the show up and work business, not in the results business.
Not in the results business.
And I really have now taken that in on a cellular level in a way that was also very liberating.
I had a great, my buddy Clay, who's like one of my best buddies, and just love him so much. And he's taught me so much on this planet and on other planets.
Yeah.
But I remember I was going through a tough time a couple of years ago, and he said to me, "Don't talk about it for 24 hours." And I just didn't do it. And I just found that if I just let shit go, it's as easy as letting it go.
Yeah. Do you listen to Sam Harris at all?
No.
He's super into meditation. He talks about how you actively have to fuel anger.
Yeah.
It's like you get angry, and then you decide to keep building the case of why you're angry. And it's an active choice, even though you might not be aware that you're making it. But you have to keep pouring fuel onto it.
Well, how you feel is a direct result of what you think about. The only thing you can control is what you think about. And
Sometimes.
sometimes, but really most of the time. And maybe it takes meditation, and maybe it takes sort of moments of quiet where you can kind of quiet your mind and do that. And meditation helps for me in that way. But to actively sort of turn it around, and then you're able to let all that kind of shit go, because a belief is just a thought you keep thinking. Right? I'm not the first person to say that, but it's true. You know, put it this way. I like to think of, like, my buddy Clay always talks about this too, but like this is something that he and I spend hours every day talking about, which is I'm not into anger management. I'm trying to get on the other side of the equation now. Don't get angry in the first place. And by changing the way that I live my life and changing the way I think, I don't want to be managing feeling bad. I don't want to feel bad in the first place.
Right.
That has been such a huge thing for me.
Yeah.
And so just getting into that other side of the equation.
And that's
man.
acceptance, don't you think? That's like
Sure,
the greatest
part
part
of
of,
it.
our thing is just like, I accept this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight against this.
I'm not going to fight it. And I'm not going to focus on the shit that's not working. I focus on the shit that does work. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Well, Monica has a great saying. She said, love who loves you back.
Love the thing that loves you back.
Love the
That's
thing
sort
that
of what we
loves
were
you
talking
back.
about earlier with following what's in front of you. Same thing.
Following what's in front of you, love the thing, whatever it is. It's like, I always say this too, which is like, think about what you want and then talk yourself into it. Mm-hmm. That's it, man.
Mm-hmm.
But earlier you said that you don't need to work on yourself, but
Yeah.
it sounds like you work on yourself all the time. It sounds like you're thinking about evolving all the time and working on bettering yourself. I don't think you'd be here if you
Well, I mean,
weren't.
sometimes if you get off into the cut and you have to kind of do some extra, spiritual calisthenics to kind of get yourself back, sure. But I'm not looking back and hammering and drilling back on the things that aren't working in my life or the things about myself that I don't like or whatever traumatic events that I've had, the shit that I used to beat myself up, the story that I'm holding on to, whatever,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. It doesn't work.
You're not wallowing.
No, it doesn't work. And people say, well, but I want to because I know it's popular. I know it. I get it. And I get it makes a great story. And you're going to get a lot of people leaning in. And that's what we're taught to do. Look, if beating yourself up worked, man, I'd be cured.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it just doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Barney, I love you, and I just want to publicly state that you not being here was simply I just didn't want to inconvenience you because it's a fucking beating to do a podcast. As Kevin Pollak, someone you worked with, says, podcasts are the new jury duty. It's the perfect summation.
It's true.
It is.
But I was really excited to be here. And I love you too, man. I mean, you're a delight of a person.
One last thing I wanted to say is because you gave me the compliment that you let me drive. You're the only person in my life. Remember in Illinois, I let you navigate, and I turned to my brain because I've never met anyone with the sense of direction that Arnett has. It's world class. There was a kickoff party for this movie at a fucking bowling alley in the middle of a cornfield. We didn't have directions. I don't know how Will thought he knew where it was at. Maybe you looked at the flyer 2 days beforehand or something. And you just kept going, I think you're going to go another couple miles up here. We're just driving by cornfields. And all of a sudden we pull into a bowling alley parking lot. And I go, you know what? I'm never going to think about where we're going when I'm with Will. How liberating. I loved it.
Yeah.
It's one of the most freeing experiences to just be present in the car.
Think about what an incredible invincible team we were.
Oh,
that
I'm
you
behind
can
the wheel.
drive like nobody's business, and I'm going to get us there. And I'm going to direct us
navigator.
there. It's unbelievable.
Oh my God, we should enter some kind of one of these greatest race type things.
Forget
Don't
it.
You think?
Forget it.
Oh my God, we would.
We'd be the Ken Jennings of Amazing Race.
We would. All right. Well, I adore you, and you're always welcome, and never take my lack of reaching out for. I love you.
Same.
All right.
And now my favorite part of the show, the fact check with my soulmate, Monica Padman.
Hi.
Wow.
Yeah.
Deep breath.
I wanted to settle into this one.
Oh, you did?
Well, our last fact check was such a wonderful exploration of many topics.
Oh, too many, some would say.
Yeah, too many good topics. What'd you think of Barney? That was the first time you met Barney?
It was.
Yeah. Could you see how he and I were old pals?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Was it annoying, like two best friends when they get together? You're like, ugh.
It was not annoying.
Oh,
it was
okay.
endearing. It was also your birthday. No, it was really sweet. It was
Okay,
really sweet.
okay.
Yeah, you could tell that you guys were just really good friends. Just really good friends.
Yeah.
Too good of friends.
Two good old buddies knocking around.
But I thought it was funny. I'm sorry. I dropped my fingernail.
Oh, Jesus.
It's somewhere in this couch now.
We're going to have to get a new couch soon.
I hope that some really fancy guest finds it.
Minimally, we should put the middle cushion where you're sitting right now because no one's ever sat on the middle cushion. So it probably has some more life in it.
Oh, but there's so much respect and
History.
love and history and wisdom and stuff.
Presidential hairs.
And farts have happened in here.
I wonder how many guests
By the
are
fame.
sneaking some out. There's no way that we've done 400 hours of interviewing and someone hasn't accidentally
one out.
cracked a little.
I wouldn't even say on accident, probably on purpose.
Oh, I felt like I was going to talk about male grooming. This is not an ad. Kristen gave me one of those masks like a week
For
ago.
your penis?
No, do they make penis masks?
Not that I know of. I mean,
I'm talking
dibs.
about grooming. Oh, I got why you said, because I said male grooming, you immediately thought of pubic hair.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
therein lies part of the problem with male grooming, right? Is that you don't even think of like or maybe I'm using the wrong term.
I mean, to
Maybe
me,
that's what it
grooming means taking care of some pubic hair,
Oh.
some masks for your penis.
Okay, but it's not just general grooming, like keeping yourself.
Put together. I think you're right. I think it has to do with like shaving and stuff.
Okay. Anyways, she gave me a mask.
Face mask.
Yeah, face mask.
Okay.
She forced me to wear it. You know,
Okay.
let's be honest. And I had to admit, the next day, my skin looked incredible.
I love a face
You
mask.
do love a face mask.
Of course.
I've totally come around to it. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. And I'm sure guys would be so embarrassed to go buy masks because we're all stupid.
Yeah.
Also, the masks are clearly made for ladies because they don't fit on my face at all.
Really?
No, the mouth hole is where my nostrils are, and I can barely see out of the eyes. And
Oh.
it does, yeah, it's like it's made for a woman's face.
Oh, that's interesting because I always feel like they're too big for me.
Oh, really?
A little bit. Like there's always like some extra folds
on your
and
lips or
stuff.
whatnot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, I was thinking I want to make a big guy face mask.
I'd love. You should actually. I don't know. You
big-
should talk about it here. I think you really
Okay.
maybe should do that.
All right, I'll do it. But anyways, I really liked it, and then I wore a second one. I've already worn two, and I wanted. I think I'm going to join. Are you in her club of Wednesday Mask Day or whatever?
No, I wasn't
Oh
invited.
no. Why not?
I don't know.
Does she think
Who's
you hate
in it?
masks? I have no idea. She said you want to join my Wednesday Mask Club or something.
Oh
I assumed everyone was invited but me. Oh, sorry.
She's such a bad mom.
Hey.
She doesn't even invite her daughter into the mass club.
Well, maybe she thinks you're like all daughters and like, ugh, that's not cool, Mom.
She knows I like a product.
Okay. You're going on vacation with your mother, though. Fucking deserting me.
I'm not going anymore
You're not?
because of the face mask.
Oh, jeez.
Because it'll be a Wednesday and I won't be invited.
No, you'll just have to leave that day at the hotel. Now, you're going to Austria with Mom. Does it bother you that you get to take a vacation with her and I don't?
Get to take a vacation with her?
I've never taken a vacation with her since we had kids.
Okay, well, that doesn't bother me. It sounds like it bothers you.
Of course it does. You're getting to take a vacation to Austria or Australia. This is just the reality of being married and having kids. So she can take a trip because I'll stay and watch the kids. You know what I'm saying? So she's got to go with her friends or then I'll get to go with my friends.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry.
You don't care.
No, I care. I mean, you could plan it and let the kids stay at grandma's or something.
That's the problem is grandmas live in another state.
But have them come.
Okay.
I mean, people do that. I think you should then make it a priority so you don't get resentful.
Oh, I'm not resentful.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm jealous, which is not the same as resentful.
Not the same. I agree.
Yeah.
Anywho,
Anyways.
so yeah, your buddy was here.
Yeah.
And it's fun to be around buddies.
Yeah, sure is.
And you guys touched on it a little bit, but you were sort of attached at the hip. And now you're not.
Right. Yes. For a myriad of reasons. But number one being he formed a family and I formed a family. That's
Yeah.
really when it stopped. Like he had kids first.
Yeah.
And then shortly thereafter I had kids.
Yeah.
And then that's what happens as a grown up.
I know. It's funny because it's just an interesting topic that I've been thinking about a lot lately. Well, first started with the conversation of Eric and the are you valuable basically as a single person.
Right,
That's what
right.
started the thinking process. But I have been thinking a lot about single people versus families. And, you say in this part's cut of the episode.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'll just say that you were talking about another friend of yours who you hadn't seen in a really, really, really long time. And then this person had a child. And now you want to see them all the time is how
That's
you
right.
phrased it.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, I'll just be on it. Like it hurts my feelings when I hear
Oh,
those
really?
things. Yeah. Even though
Despite the facts.
despite the facts that I myself am included in all of your life, but it's more of like on principle, my feelings are hurt, not in actuality, because it sounds like you're saying they become more valuable to you or more interesting to you.
Nope. Here's exactly what happened. that person came over with their kid,
Yeah.
and we sat in this yard for 3.5 hours while our kids just walked in circles. He's not doing that without a kid. I'm not saying, hey, why don't you come over and watch my kid walk in a circle in the yard for 3 hours? No single person's doing that.
Besides me.
Naturally, like, meet me at a restaurant, meet me at the movies, blah, blah, blah. And likewise, I'm not joining him at what would be a really fun party. I'm sure there's lots of people I would love to meet. That's fun. But I can't do it. I don't have time to go to someone's party.
Yeah.
Whatever free time I have is kid time.
Totally.
So that's just the facts.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to any places without my kids.
I think that makes total sense and doesn't really need even an explanation. I mean, none of it needs an explanation. It's just how you feel. But I think, and maybe, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but I feel like it's not giving the single people enough credit to say, like, I wouldn't invite them because they wouldn't want to come hang out with me while my kids rode bikes. Like, why wouldn't they? I do that all day long.
Well, this friend would never have done that. That's just a fact.
Okay, sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
you find pleasure in hanging out as a big family, which is great. And I used to find immense pleasure in hanging out with Favreau and his family, and there was just kids playing.
Yeah.
Many people are not like that.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
And that-
totally true.
I'm not judgmental of them. I get it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's just person to person. It's probably, I mean, it's all my own stuff, obviously. I just hear that, and it makes me feel like, oh, people are more or less priorities to you based on whether they have kids.
But that's not true at all.
Right.
It was literally, now this person and I have an activity again.
Yeah.
It used to
Yeah.
be that he and I were both single.
Right.
And we went to parties and we went dancing and we were the life of the place and we dated girls together and it was a big party and we would watch football all day on Sundays and we'd go to restaurants.
Yeah.
That's my fault. It's all off the table.
Well, it's not your fault. It's just
Well,
life
I had
changed.
kids. Yeah. That's why I need to go to Vienna and cut loose. Eat some of them sausages.
Okay. So Breves came up multiple times.
Oh,
of course.
Breve latte.
Yeah. And you said it's like 9 ounces of half and half, and he said like 30. But I guess it depends on what size you get.
Okay.
Because a Breve is 2 ounces of espresso, a shot of espresso, and then half and half steamed in froth.
Which is the remaining.
It's the remaining.
Yeah, so a venti, which is 20 ounces.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't say there's 18 ounces of half and half because when they froth it, it gains volume. But let's say over 10 ounces.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a Coke can full of half and half.
Exactly.
They're delicious, by the way.
Oh, I bet.
I'm going to get one.
I don't think they have them anymore.
I kind of
At Starbucks. You could make one.
No, I want to do it at Starbucks.
But I don't think they have
Well,
it. Let's
ask them
ask.
to.
Ask
Okay.
Google.
Hey, Google, does Starbucks still sell the Breve latte?
On the website reference.com, they say, Starbucks coffee stores and stands, as with many other coffee shops, offer a Café Breve version of the company's lattes, in which half and half or light cream is substituted for milk.
Oh my God, I just got honey. Now listen, kind of like the rectangle sandwich.
Ooh,
you know, once we started
yeah.
talking about them, we had to get our mouths on them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a Breve.
Oh,
I think
do
this
it.
week. This week, so I'm shooting Top Gear, and it's like I'm out about. You know, normally I'm up in the ranch.
Sure,
Nothing to buy there.
Sure.
But Top Gear's around town. I could
You
be
could swing by a Starbucks.
I could be ducking in the Starbies, and I'm gonna get me a Breve. I wish I could have a cigarette with it. 'Cause
No.
I'm not gonna.
Okay.
I know I can't have a cigarette ever, or I'll be a smoker again.
Yeah.
But I was pounding them Camel Lights when I used to have those
Yeah.
Breves.
Isn't it funny what the brain does? The thought of having a Breve made you want to have a cigarette because it's all connected memory-wise.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there a record for longest spokesperson ever? It was kind of hard to find. William Shatner did it a long time for Priceline.
The Shat. He doesn't go by that, does he?
I doubt it. I would
William the
guess,
Shat Shatner?
I would guess not.
There's a bakery in Mammoth, California called Shat's Bakery. SCHATT apostrophe S. And there's the logo is someone pulling a huge loaf of bread out of an oven, but
No. No. And
Yes,
it looks
yes.
like
Well, look, it's a great place. I love this place, Shat's Bakery. There's a couple of them. I think there's one in Bishop as well. But Kenny and I were up there, Ken Kennedy, and we got obsessed with the fact that it looked like someone was pulling a giant dump out of the oven. Shats.
Wow, a giant
like
log.
shats, and then just this big mound on
Oh
on
my goodness. Wow. People sometimes don't think things all the way through.
You know, I wonder how it works because I'm guilty of this. Like, I don't know if it's some outgrowth of like buyer's remorse, but if I make my bed, I'll lie in it, right? So I kind of like if I can commit to something that's flawed. I know this about myself. I'd say it's a bit of a character defect.
No, I don't think it's a defect.
Okay, I'll be like, well, it's not right, it's not perfect, but fine.
Like what? Give an example.
You know, I could order something like, I don't know, a pair of shoes, and then they come, and I'm like, well, they're not what I thought they were, but I can deal with it. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I won't like send them back, or I just have this, I don't know what it is.
Okay.
So I could see myself like working with some artists. I'm Ted Schatt, or whatever the proprietor's name is, the patriarch of Schatt's Bakery.
Mr. Schatt.
I'm Mr. and or Mrs. Schatt. And I'm working with this lovely person. I'm like, so what I'm thinking is like, you really want to get a sense of a piping hot loaf of bread coming out of the oven. And again, I'll say Schatt's Bakery, right? And I've been hearing my name for so long, I don't even recognize it's related to
Of course,
shit.
sure,
Past tense of shit.
Sure.
And I might see it and be like, it's not great. It's not what I was imagining, but maybe it's still good. And this gal or guy loves it that worked on it hard, and I know they're talented. Yeah.
Yes.
And I might find myself just with this
Committing.
huge billboard in front of
Yeah.
my bakery that looks like a hot steaming loaf.
You can't do that.
I
You
know.
gotta
That's what I'm saying.
strive for excellence.
That's where I'm not like Steve Jobs. You know, that's a character defect.
What happened is what I can see happened is the person who was given that information, they thought that Mr. Schatt was wanting it to look like
Schatt.
poop because he said piping hot log.
Oh, well, no, loaf.
I'm sorry.
Loaf.
Piping hot
Loaf.
loaf coming straight out of the oven.
Out of the heat
He's
box.
like, okay,
Okay.
I hear you.
I
I
feel
know
you.
what you want. Okay.
He thought he wanted some innuendo.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Most things in life are miscommunications.
Yeah, but I can see myself like hanging that sign, and every time I pull into my bakery, just going like, well, whatever. See, one of the things I like about being in business with you is you're more of a stickler than me. Like we have the same
am a
opinion
stickler.
and aesthetic, and I love that you're a teammate and that you'll flag stuff that I run out of
Fuel, energy.
Yeah, or I'm
Yeah.
too codependent or whatever it is. I value that about you. I'm
I-
sure you've witnessed, now that we're discussing it, times where I'm like, that's fine.
I guess. Yeah, sure. And I definitely don't have that.
I'm grateful as hell.
It's good and bad on both ends, I would say. I think that mine comes from cheer.
Probably. You can only do it right, or it collapses.
It literally
Yeah,
collapses. And there's no room for mistakes and there's no room for helmets.
Okay.
So, okay.
I will say this just to give everyone the feedback. They would have seen it themselves, so I don't need to update them. But it was pretty split. There were a lot
It
of
was?
Oh, yeah, it was really split. There were like a lot of people that agreed with you, and there were a lot of people that agreed with me.
Oh.
So I'd say it was a push.
And the people that agreed with me probably were cheerleaders.
A lot of them were, yeah.
And the ones that agreed with you
We're just
know
normal
nothing about
people.
cheerleading. So, okay. I feel good where I stand.
You made your community proud.
In that show, people are tweeting and posting about that show. It is getting so much love. And I'm thrilled. I feel like I made it. I feel like it's my show.
You feel very validated, don't you?
I really do.
The world finally knows what you went through.
I feel like that.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm really
Hey, Google, how many cheerleaders are there in high schools? Bad question. There's no way.
According to Wikipedia, they estimated that the number of high school cheerleaders from public high schools is around 394,700. Do you want a little more context?
No, but thank you. She gave me a great answer to a bad question.
Yeah, she did.
Well, so that's a lot of 400,000 people. You have a big posse,
I know.
a big squad, literally and figuratively.
Oh, you're right.
That's a lot of you.
Yeah.
That's too
I mean,
many. Too many of you.
I personally called it a team, but
Okay.
but people call it a squad.
Okay. I thought you called it a movement.
Well, that too.
Shats. What if it was called Shats? Get it moving. Like
Get
what if they were
things moving?
Yeah, like they were intending to say start your day here, but it sounded like get your bowels moving.
Shats has so many.
Good for them for not changing their name and just going, no, we will have a food restaurant.
That's right.
We don't care that our last name is Shat.
And it tastes good, right?
Oh my God, the place is fucking awesome. I
I
really
want
can't
that.
recommend it enough. Shat's Bakery up in Mammoth.
So William Shatner, that's how this started.
sorry.
And then Jennifer O'Neill, who was the face of CoverGirl, I guess did that for 30 years.
As the face of it.
That's what it says.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Good for them.
And then Cosby was with Jello for 25 years.
Oh, and how long has Barney been with GMC?
I think he said around 20.
Yeah.
I think.
So Cosby.
25 years
And
with
has he
Jell-O.
lost that contract?
Yeah, but he had already. Oh. I mean, he had already not been with them for a while before all of his allegations
Poor
came
Jell-O.
to serve. Oof.
I mean, they are indelibly tied for life.
It's true.
Jell-O
I mean, I'm
pudding.
still eating Jello.
Here, I'm going to cover my face and see if I can do it.
Eat your Jell-O pudding pops.
Not very good. If ever there was a great impersonation to not be good at, it's that one because it's pretty much retired.
So true. Okay, and then Jared, he was with Subway for 15 years.
Here's the problem. Okay, so you bring up Cosby and you bring up Jared. It's dicey business.
Picking a spokesperson.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
I know it is. Which is why people should do what these people did. The actual longest running spokesperson is the Michelin Man, who's a cartoon.
Okay.
And
then you can create.
He's from 1894.
1894?
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Because then you're not married to.
His private life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's all the fun facts?
Yeah, there were a few facts in this Will Arnett episode.
Well, it was mostly just a lot of regaling
Yeah.
our shared history.
Yeah,
which
some
is hard
memory
to
lane.
substantiate.
That's true.
What if you tried to get on the phone with like cast members of Saturday Night Live and were like, were you nice to Dax in the hallway? He said that Will introduced you to him and that you were nice. Do you remember that?
Can you-
And what if they go, no, they think about it. Yeah, I was really nice to him. Because I don't even like that guy. I was like, what is he doing here?
Oh
Isn't he
my
on a
God.
reality
Even
show?
in this
He's a
joke.
piece of shit. Isn't he a piece of shit? But I was nice to him.
Even in your joke, you
Yeah.
you do that.
Well, the
you
truth.
do.
Well, they say good jokes are rooted in truth, right?
Okay, but not in this case because that's
it's
just your silly
my fear.
narrative.
Yeah. But it's not. I got a good narrative this year. It is working.
You're so young.
I'm so young,
Yeah,
and I love everywhere I'm at.
I know.
I told you about driving in the car. I already said it on here, right?
You did, yeah.
I love it. I was trying to explain it to
great.
Kristen on the ride to the Richardsons.
Uh-huh.
I said, if you just think about how comfortable this car is, and the fact that there's a DVD playing in the back seat for the kid, and she's like, yeah, I don't need to do that. I'm not upset we're in traffic. I'm like, oh yeah, if you're like that, you don't even need these tricks.
True.
She don't even care.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
About that.
About that.
About it.
She cares about other stuff. We can all implement it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a great resolution.
Tool. Trick of the trade.
It is.
All right. Well, I love you.
I love you.
All right.
Bye.